Thank you, May.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you all for coming. It means a lot to me that people showed up. It's great. So I'm Dan. I use they, them pronouns. I'm queer. I'm trans. So I just really quick also want to give like a little, just an important trigger warning. I will cover some heavy topics that are deeply ingrained in my artwork and my identity, but please feel encouraged at any point to step away if you need to. Potential triggers in this presentation have to do with mental health, gender dysphoria, self-harm, suicide, HIV and AIDS, anti-trans legislation, and I will be showing tattoo needles. So thank you all for being here. Remember to check in with your body. Make sure you're doing okay. There's no hard feelings. So, yeah. And I do promise it'll end on a positive, good note. Yeah. So stick it out if you want. All right. So I'm less interested in speaking about my merit in accordance to my resume than speaking to you as a person with a lot of feelings that makes art about them. I do want you to think about how my background would shift your judgment of my work and of my value. If I tell you I went to Berkeley or Yale or Alfred, what would you think? If I tell you I'm solely self-taught, what would you think? If I told you I have rich parents, if I told you I have no parents, if I told you I got a 4.0 and never missed a day of school, if I told you I dropped out of high school, if I told you I'd been in the food service industry for 10 years, if I told you I received grants, residencies, went to graduate school, am established and represented, what would you think? If I told you I tried really hard for a long time and life got messy many times and now I'm here, how would it change what I'm about to show you? And how would it change what you consider valuable? So art has been a constant in my life. It's been there for me longer than I can remember. The beginning of my relationship with ceramics started out with pottery. So I used to make functional things. I learned the material, how to move with it, how to draw within it, how it's processed, fired. These are some old plates that I used to make. Pottery holds a very deep, dear place in my heart, and I continue to return to these forms, but my main portfolio leaped in a very different direction. My early work in large-scale clay bodies started before I openly transitioned. This work served as a way to express and understand the trauma I was holding in my own distant body. I struggled with a very deep loneliness and obsessed over theories of touch and dissociation. I spent a lot of time researching and was influenced by Deleuze's theory of meat and disembodiment, Julia Krsteva's theory of object, and Gabor Mate's research on trauma and illness. As much as I've written about this work, I find most of my pieces make a lot more sense not through reading a research paper or an academic thesis. Instead, throughout this presentation, I'll be reading to you fragments from my own journals that I wrote at the time that I created these artworks. This is how I can show you best what these pieces mean, and this is how I can show you best where I come from and why I make. So here's a fragment from a past journal. This body remembers everything anyone ever gave it, took from it, ignored, lost, loved, and I am overwhelmed. A contradiction at first glance, they speak of touch as if it's good or bad, body as if separate from the self, and I never learned how to love, and yet I will still love. And I carry a lot of pain. I seem obsessed with the perforated line that seems to divide, but suggests to cut open. I can write about love and touch and trauma, and I can tell you about the bruises I still feel and the pain of not having a home. I can tell you about sunset cigarettes and the love of someone holding my hand. But I find everything to be more steady, more clear, through the rhythmic movements of hands joining clay with clay, building up bodies that show everything that isn't said. So I keep these restless hands digging to try and find my body and to try and find how to share these phantom feelings. I hit a pretty major turning point when I was living in Arkansas, because I lived in Arkansas. The body of work I made there is more about me settling into myself. I was finding my queerness in a society that felt very violent. I was finding the right words, finding others that felt like me. I fell in love and I fell out of love and I fell in love again and it was unhealthy. And then I went back to an old love. Queer love can often feel infinite and liberating, but we're not excluded from the experiences of domestic abuse or manipulative partners or finding love in the wrong scenarios. While I pursued many wrong directions, I was also trying to find ways to navigate feeling okay looking in the mirror and finding the right name and telling people who I am. Most of this work is about that love and desire and fear, all the while within the transitioning body, where boundaries shifted and shimmered in ways very unpredictably. These are amorphous bodies, defying the structures set forth, but also defying me. I'm going to jump through these images of this body of work that I made in Arkansas. I'm going to read you a journal entry that turned into a letter that I wrote during this time. It's a bit long, but we'll power through it. Hey, are you up? It breaks my heart that I can't come over and hold you, or hear the sounds of cars at night mixing together with the rain hitting your basement window, or smell the eucalyptus as it opens our eyes through the steam of your shower. Are we alone, or just lonely, or just missing? I think I'm always missing. It seems that this transition into myself, I've been rendered into nothing. It's a beautiful nothing. It's everything I asked for. Out of girlhood, steeped in anxiety and validated by violence, she learned of holding, not touching, of listening, not speaking, of watching, not wanting. Sometimes through this invisibility, I forget that she is I, that he is she, that I am him. I'm just trying to tell you a story. Take me to where landscape and touch merge, and my skin finds itself stitched into your bones, and I can hear the ocean rushing in your ears. And they say it's because I never learned to take up space. And I hear my voice echoing in the cave of my body, telling me that boundaries are healthy, that I need to find the space that is me, and that must be without you. But I desire something much more perverse. I desire to drown in a merged body of you and me and the ocean, in the dark waters of the Pacific, where I can feel the dancing of cuts long since healed, and the salt burns their way deep into us, entering those soft white scars, and our lungs scream and sing and sink, and we are the only waves out past shore, too far off to see the pulse of the lighthouse. I want a passion that is consuming and loving and painful. I want it to remind me that I'm alive, that I feel, that I'm not nothing, that I'm more than the parts of myself you choose to see. I'm the parts of you that you don't recognize. Something endless, amorphous, anonymous, mysterious. Something real and seen and felt and heard. So why am I so stuck with sadness when I see that now I can cry, scream, laugh, and no one will think of me? Oh, honey, I miss you too. When you lean over, the spaces between your ribs open up and unfurl like the sword ferns in spring. I smell the crisp autumn air as I enter you and reach around and grab my thigh. Shiny pink acrylic nails pierce my skin and my blood mixes with our sweat, and this connection is deeper than I dreamed. You cried into the phone of the pain of not being touched, and I hit with the pain of being untouchable and the pain of not being able to touch you. And I'm bleeding, and I wonder if you are too. Long distance call. I remember when that meant something, and I find that it still means something. I look down at this body. How much will it cost to call upon it, check up on her, him, them, it? Can I afford it? Maybe it's best to wait. Maybe I'll visit soon. Maybe they'll come over, hold me, tell me everything's gonna be all right. I feel my heart beat twice. Could you lend me some money? I think I need to make a call. Fleet foxes are playing gently over your small portable speaker in the kitchen. It soothes my skin as I wake in your sheets. I turn over to watch you in the dim glow of the lamplight as you apply alcohol wipes to the darkness around your eyes. I think the sun is coming up. I desire a love that strikes with a force and power and destruction that is like waves crashing rocks into cliffs, forming caves, shifting sediment over millions of years. I want a love that is the destruction of my borders. To prove to everyone I never had any. To scream at him, at them, you cannot violate me. I'm without fullness to be taken. I'm only waves out past shore, dark and purple in the night air, floating. I once heard that passion is overrated, so I went out and I had sex with 3 people tonight. And I'd gather to say, sex is overrated, but passion, no. Passion is her looking at you from across the room and your heart feeling as if it were to race out of your ribs to hers. It's the sensation of numbness from the waist down when she walks towards you, rendering you still and stuck and struck. It's the underrated feeling of losing all control of mouth, teeth, tongue when she tells you harder. Passion will never be overrated. Passion is what I live for. Or maybe I don't understand what passion is. Maybe this is lust, or God forbid, love, and I'm simply confused. I woke up missing you, and I promised myself that I would write about the night under the cherry blossoms. And yet I still continue to talk about anything else. And I want to tell you how I feel, but I've been taught that you hear my voice, you see my body, and we've reached our end. As the world burns, I find a humble fire within myself, and I wonder if it's too much to ask, that when everything burns, can we cover our spines in gold and be buried in the earth entwined together, adorned and remembered as the altars of beauty that we are. I want to tell you about growing up near the ocean, but you already know. And that beauty to be haunted by similar ghosts, how the noises at night remind us of rain hitting the metal roof of our childhoods. Maybe there's still a chance, a boundless love, one where I wake up to sunlight coming through sheer curtains, and there's the smell of freshly brewed coffee, and I turn over to see the view of your slender body sitting at your desk, getting ready for the day. Yes, can you call me? So, I always knew I was queer. Shocker. But I spent about 23 years of my life letting other people tell me otherwise. I was raised as a girl. I had a girlhood. I fought it aggressively. I have an older brother, and when we were growing up, our family didn't have a lot of money. So I always got his hand-me-downs. So for a very long time, I didn't have to face too much pushback on what I wanted to wear, dress, act. And in 3rd grade, my brother Mark gave me his shark t-shirt, and I wore it every day until it was in absolute shreds. And I would fight and scream if anyone tried to make me change. But I learned really early on that I couldn't be out. Only with close friends did I ever even hint at my transness. Took me until I was 23 to be open and out, and that choice also made me lose many people in my life. It also made room for many more, and those were the ones that really mattered. So I do want to emphasize that I also had no choice. I had to come out. My body was breaking down. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I hadn't felt connected to my body since I was that kid in the shark t-shirt. And that's a pretty long time. Yeah, so I do want to show these pictures to show you some general sense of gender euphoria of a trans kid. because I think about this kid all the time now. Definitely when I see the current legislation being processed. Growing up not too long ago was almost unbearable. Navigating simulation, other people's reactions, fear, shame, and I didn't have 500 political bills up against me. So my current work is driven with a really intense urgency due to our current political state. I cannot differentiate my artwork from these politics because I can't untangle myself from these politics. Gender affirming care is life-saving care. An accepting, welcoming, and loving community is life-saving care. My current work is an investment in the research and active preservation and empathy for my queer community. The past 3 years have been extremely traumatic for trans folks. There was 144 proposed bills in 2021, 174 in 2022, and in this year already, there's been 566 proposed bills. This year has also seen the introduction of 31 national anti-transgender bills that are currently being processed. Visibility, empathy, and outreach are essential during these times. I'm overwhelmed with an urgency to produce work that reaches past the community I am within and brings greater acceptance, visibility, and safety, because this is what we need. Here are a few examples of some past laws, or these are now law, however you say it, past bills. Felony charges for providing gender-affirming care to people under 26 years old. I am 26 years old, just give that a gander. Guardians and teachers can override a student's pronouns. There's child abuse charges to anyone that intentionally or knowingly changed the sex of the child. Facility requirements based on sex, banning books in schools that validate concepts of gender or pronouns. Mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. This is in the Declaration of Independence. I think about it often when I see these laws and when I grieve the people I have lost. Shame will eat you up. It's a frightening thing, fear and shame and loneliness. I've seen it turn into a statistic. This is the current statistic. 41% will consider suicide. For transgender youth in the past year, approximately 50% of them considered suicide. And the same ratio that started ringing in my ears as a teenager is still present today, where 1 in 5 will attempt suicide. Many succeed. I am scared, I am angry, and I am constantly grieving. Art has been the only constant and stable thing throughout my life. And now I make art for the people of my community that aren't around anymore. I make art to find ways to grieve, as well as ways to show you, someone who may not be in my community, what this all means, and hopes to find humanity within a very sick country. Something that got me through my transition was a book. I hold it very close to my heart. It's Close to the Knives by David Wojnarowicz. I return to his work often. He was an artist, activist, writer. He wrote the book during the AIDS epidemic. I'm not equating my experiences of being transgender in America to the trauma he faced within the peak spread of HIV and AIDS. But his words bring out something in me, something that feels deep and queer and angry and scared. And I'm going to read this to you. With all the occurrences of death facing me, I thought about issues of freedom. If government projects the idea that we as people inhabiting this particular landmass have freedom, Then for the rest of our lives, we will go out and find what appear to be boundaries and smack against them like a heart against the ribcage. If we reveal boundaries in the course of our movements, then we'll expose the inherent lie in the use of the word freedom. I want to keep breathing and moving until I arrive at a place where motion and strength and relief intersect. I don't know what's ahead of me in the course of my life and this civilization. I just don't feel I've reached the necessary things inside of my history that would ease the pressure in my skull and in my future and in my present. It is exhausting living in a population where people don't speak up if what they witness doesn't directly threaten them. I had a friend once call me a survivor. So I called an ex-lover and asked why I didn't want to die. At this time, everyone in my life wanted to, and I was stuck feeling non-consensual want for life. She turned to me and she said, "You have preservation desires. So this work is my preservation desires." The Deconstruction of Adam is a recent collection of artworks I created expressing the current political climate of being transgender in America. Here are some words to introduce the work. In this utopia, under the deconstruction of Adam, under the Eve unmade from his rib, all created on our own terms, in our Garden of Eden, where we are not banished, but rejoiced, it is their right, it is their duty, to continue transforming, to continue changing. We are the seasons without knowledge of the next. We are all 7 days of Genesis without an end to creation. No rest, let us grow, let us thrive. Take my hand, without pain, without fear, without guilt, without shame. Consisting of 7 iterations of 120 pounds of reclaimed clay. I think I have five shown here. This is a reflection on time, body, genesis, identity, and transformation. I took the weight of my body, like that. So I took the weight of my body and put it in clay. I sculpted the first figure, took a photograph of it, then tore it down, reclaimed the clay, and then used that clay to build the next figure. They are the preservation of a moment between the clay being built up and being taken down and reclaimed. It was a beginning in my thought process of transness in clay and the preservation beyond ceramics. The preservation of change, embodied in clay, and transitioning through photography. Along with the clay figures, I used collage, video, and small ceramic works to create this body of work. This piece is 8 feet by 6 feet, and it's a collage sheet of 2022's anti-transgender bills, my insurance policies, my medical bills, and some Trevor Project statistics. Over the paper, I wrote a poem. I'll read you the words while I play a clip from a short film that I made. So the film is titled In the Pursuit of Happiness, and it's my early transition body removing trans tape, which is a kind of bandage to bind back breasts to ease gender dysphoria. Okay. I want to rewrite all the obituaries I was not able to find. I want to attend all the funerals that never were held. I want to light every candle for all the vigils that dead named you. I want to burn every bathroom that put us in danger. I want to break into every home that has been unsafe. I want to steal every bottle of testosterone from conservative pharmacies. I want to fire every doctor that labeled us disturbed. I want to corrupt every church that tried to convert us. I want to reclaim space in every bar that told us to leave. I want to spit on every unaccepting parent. I want to have arguments that howl in every classroom that refused our history. I want to scream until your ears bleed when you call me ma'am. I want one day where I don't have to find myself away from my body in order to survive. I want one day where 1 in 5 isn't a statistic that rings in my ears. I want to hold seances to know how to move forward. I want to dance. I want to laugh. I want to kiss everyone I meet. I want to love every detail of every day. I want to hold hands with strangers. I want to play every game and sport. I want to sing as loud and horribly as I can. I want to look everyone in the eyes and feel no shame. I want to look in the mirror and feel no shame. I want to hold my friends so close, our bodies mend together, and we share each other's skin. As I experimented with new techniques, I still continued to process much of my emotions, politics, and experiences through ceramics. I'll flip through these recent works and read to you some fragments from my journals at the time that these were being made. I wish I could hold fear in the palms of my hands, away from myself, separate from you. And we could look down at what I'm carrying and see if we can find a safe place to put it, a place that it could heal and rest. Can uncertainty find wings through fear, become a songbird in the night? I once read about disintegration. Now there's a book on my desk on metamorphosis. The spaces I found my queerness were in the dark, unseen. My skin can't fit, so it stretches, shimmers, reaches, to stay unstable, to stay uncertain, to remain unknown, holding in the night the turbulence of tides and restless winds. As I get ready to go out dancing, I put on my headphones. There's an interview with Elope. They make a statement. Heaven is a practice, not a promise. He asked me what was haunting me lately, and I thought of him leaning towards me in the dark, in his safe room, him with the windows open, him whispering in my ear that he wanted to die. Don't leave me in the dark. Don't leave me without a body to hold. Don't leave me running alone at night, stumbling, falling. I don't want you to haunt me forever. But you left too soon, and I didn't come with you. Can I grip your shoulders and lean into your warmth without this being love? Without you mistaking me for what I don't need. I need warmth. It is cold where you come from. Sit closer because I'm shaking. I don't know yet what you smell like, but I wonder if it's similar to tobacco and the sweet softness of figs. You seem to also know what it's like to not breathe, as if you too have seen the bruises that creep under my skin, crawl beneath my vertebrae, lurk under the long scars shadowed by tattoos. We don't speak about my crooked rib, nor do we speak about anything others find essential. I find you alone, out on the lawn with an office chair, watching the sunset. I sit in the damp grass by your feet. Hold your breath, as I think of how to hold you. I give up mid-thought, sunset cigarette, and ask you for a cigarette in hopes our fingers will brush. So last December, I came to visit my friends in San Leandro for Christmas. And I fell very madly and deeply in love with the Bay. I'd never been here before. And just about a week went by and I just told them that I was not gonna leave. I'd never lived in a place where people right away took me in, held me, accepted me, validated me. It's pretty revolutionary, this joy and ease and safety. I also have never in my life seen so much citrus. And the feeling of seeing these colors everywhere and in everyone's yard in the winter, it's just like a very warm feeling. Yeah, I've never seen that. The winter citrus feeling. So I'm trying to refine in my practice a sense of joy. To be trans and joyful is the strongest weapon I have against the political nightmare. So how can I wrap up these overwhelming feelings of acceptance and euphoria and queerness that I've experienced in the Bay and put them into a visual language? How can I hold the contradictions of love and pain and acceptance and shame upon a sculpted body? My time here is exploring these intersections. Lately, I've been thinking about three things, a lot of others, but three main things: arches, dancing, and writing. So these are my arches. I've been thinking about the strength of the arch. Within construction, it's one of the strongest load-bearing methods to build. I've been thinking about aqueducts, how they carry water from the source to a community. I've been thinking about access to necessary resources and the government's power over who gains access. I've been thinking of the beauty of these utilitarian forms, the simplicity along with the complexity. Just all seems very queer. So I've been constructing an arch right now. It's upstairs. Also come through whenever. I'll show you what I'm doing. There's kind of an image of it. Where was I? Oh, yes. So right now it's just one, but my hope is to have a multitude of these. It'll most likely stand alone for a while because the construction process is pretty time consuming. But I'm building this arch with dancing bodies of the queer people I've met and felt heard, held, and validated by within the Bay Area. I'm carving into these forms the tattoos of my friends' bodies. In many ways, this is a monument for them, a passageway to walk through, to stand within. It's a sacred arch. To walk through it is also to notice your body in proximity to these bodies, to therefore be confronted with queer bodies that love and acceptance and community have within that. So yeah, this is a piece for my friends. A monument to joy. I'm also exploring other architectural arch motifs. So this piece I have made here, it's based around rose windows. They're often in Christian churches. And so I'm trying to place trans bodies into the spheres of sacred, as well as confront what it means to be queer in a Western society that is dominated by Christian beliefs that more often than not reject shame and enact violence upon us. I'm also stuck on dancing. Since moving to the Bay, I've danced as spastically and joyfully as I can at least once a day. Keeps me healthy. Yeah. I'm transfixed with the dancing body, the freedom, how it can move so chaotically. I'm also revisiting a lot of old video work as I begin to make a collection of photographs and videos around joy and dancing. So this is a really old piece that I made where I built a clay dress around myself. It's pretty old, but I keep thinking about it, so I figured I'd show it. I'm still stuck on my preservation desires. How can I craft art that holds the ephemeralness and freedom of life and queerness, but also gives us longevity, allowing us to counter the statistic of our below average lifespans? I find myself in clay for its fluidity, transformity, and permanence. I find myself in photography and video for its capturing of time. I also find myself in tattoos for the marks that tell you a story past the end. I return to reading and writing more often than I find my hands in clay. And it has come to the point where I feel an urgency to share these writings. So this October, I'll be doing a 3-week residency in Washington, where I'll be writing for my November solo exhibition. So I hope to collect and curate my writings into something that you can hold, take home with, give a new home. Should be something new and interesting. So I want to end this presentation by sharing one last bit of writing I made in connection to this David Winarovitz quote. So I'll read the quote and then I'll share my little response. In loving him, I saw a cigarette between the fingers of a hand, smoke blowing backwards into the room and sputtering planes diving low through the clouds. In loving him, I saw men encouraging each other to lay down their arms. In loving him, I saw small town laborers creating excavations that other men spend their lives trying to fill. In loving him, I saw moving films of stone buildings. I saw a hand in prison dragging snow in from the sill. In loving him, I saw great houses being erected that would soon slide into the waiting and stirring seas. I saw him freeing me from the silences of the interior life. I don't know if I ever knew life could be this wonderful, but I must have known in some capacity, or I wouldn't be here. It's strange to be trained subconsciously that you will not have a future, to be unspokenly told that you will die young, that life will only get harder, that this summer will be the last summer of sunshine and lightness and no responsibility. But that summer wasn't the last summer, and I pity the adults that think childhood is as good as it gets. For I'm overwhelmed with lightness. Against so many odds of this burdensome life, in this politically charged body, within this society that wants to extinguish my brightness. For me, my summer has just begun. Lately, my heart has felt like sunlight, burning bright, warm, intense, light, light, light. I think others can feel it. And instead of dampening my sunlight, I have found others that join my brightness. And wow, do we shine. Glitter and sequins and boots so tall, we reach the bright blue skies. I'm filled with summer. To keep my sunlight burning, I dance as spastically and chaotically as I can once a day. Out of breath and laughing is where you find me, stuck on a title from an artwork I once saw. I'm very lucky to be trans. Thank you. Thanks for bearing with me. It's a lot of words in 40 minutes. Yeah. Yes. There's no pressure to jump into anything at all. But I'm here if y'all have any questions. There's also beverages in the back. There's some art kind of floating around. Some resources.
I have a question, Sam.
Yeah.
You didn't touch much on the technical side of your work, and this is
Totally.
not, but I think something you and I have both connected really deeply on is sort of our emotional relationship to film firing.
Yes.
And what that means as a part of a practice,
Yeah.
as a part of a transition.
Yeah.
In many ways, like often the ultimate, not always the ultimate, but for many people, the ultimate transition of a piece of work in a film.
Yeah.
And also thinking about the iterations of arches and why we use those in films and how they come
Yeah.
up in the ceramics process. I'm curious if you touch a little bit on your greenware process and how do you work with clay that isn't finished.
Yeah.
But can you share a little bit about your emotional and technical experience, but I'm mainly interested in the emotional to the technical process.
Definitely. For a really long time, I hated everything I made. Honestly, it's still pretty similar. But there's something that happens when you're working with clay. It's very bodily. It's something that feels like you're connecting with a person in many ways. And then you finish your piece, and then you put it in the kiln, and then it comes out, and it feels as if that life has just left it. It'll be so different. And so for the longest time, every time I would make this piece and I would love it. I'd be like, I'm so connected with this clay and how it moves and dries. And then I would enter the kiln and it just wouldn't be my piece anymore. It would come out and I would just not even recognize it. And so then it was a completely different practice. Then I was like, I am now the painter and I shall paint this with glaze. And then it no longer was why I was making anyways. So there was a lot of struggle with finishing things because it just became more of a task than this connective experience. So that's how the deconstruction of Adam kind of came about, was trying to find a way also to maybe enjoy my work in a final state. So I didn't fire it. It stayed alive in my sense of it. But then it's also strange because I love firing kilns. It's this really beautiful, you're taking care of something, kind of like walking it through this transition. Also to like have the trust of a community and you having to like be someone to rely on, you know. And that always feels really good. But I still struggle with putting my work in a kiln. I'm like, well, might be not great. But yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, but we could talk for hours about it. Yeah.
Have you done any mixed media work or anything, or thought about bringing other materials into the play and all of that? Because you're like still firing it, sort of just process.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah. Photography has been really, really nice to like try to, because there's something really important to me about clay in its clay greenware state, just how tactile it is. It's also such a safe material to like interact with. It just becomes this whole relationship, I feel like, and it's really beautiful. But with photography, it's been like nice to, that can be how it lives on. I haven't tried too many other things yet. I also have a tendency, I'm like, clay, I'll do the clay thing, and I get like blinders on, and then I don't give myself the time to be like, what if I added this material and such? I'm like a little slow with those things. Yeah.
I liked the way you used photography in your presentation. That
Thank
there was
you.
multiple images and you were able to revisit the same piece, knowing more, and with super detail and all that. That was really great.
Thank you. I'm glad. Tried really hard.
I also really loved your documentation of the piece that had the different iterations, and it was just so beautiful. It allowed you to be constructive and creative and constructive, and how meaningful it was to yourself.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate how vulnerable you were to share that and to have this wonderful evening.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for everyone coming. It means a lot.
Yeah, I didn't really get a sense of scale. I didn't even notice if there were pieces in the room until after what you said about the round and then say next one. So, are most of the pieces body size, or
Yeah.
would that be in total clay firing done on married to an artist? Are you able to fire everything at once, or are there multiple pieces that can get assembled, or?
It depends on where I'm making at the time. A lot of the work that I made in Arkansas, I had really big kilns. So the work is almost always my size. So the body is in relation to my body. So they'll sit at that size. And usually I would make two. So there'd be like two of me. So scale-wise, that's kind of what you're looking at. And yeah, the kilns in Arkansas were big enough that it could hold that. But there's been many times where I've had to slice them. And so you just try to find ways to hide it tactfully. Yeah.
Dan is currently teaching a bodily play large-scale sculpture class, as well as last night taught our queer art club. And so many times we've stepped into the classroom and Dan has been standing on a table, utilizing their own hands or feet in relationship to the pieces that they're making, which is a pretty sweet sight to see.
Yes. You gotta get in there.
Having a model in every sense of the word.
Yes, yeah. You're just your own measurements, really. So it's the easiest way to do it. Well, I'm gonna, yeah.
Have you had other opportunities to show your work elsewhere outside of the community center since you've been in the area?
No, not really. I'm still so new. But super open to hearing any recommendations. Yeah, because I'm trying to stay. I really enjoy it here, like in the Bay, and so I'm hoping that this residency helps me connect with the Bay Area more and maybe gets my name out a little better, so then I can have more opportunities to show. Because that's like the goal. I'd love to. Yeah.
I just want to say that, because again, I'm Perkins cheerleader, but that whole presentation felt very round and complete, and it felt like something I would go see at like, I don't know, the Williams of the Arts would be on that, or it felt very complete. And
Yeah.
so it was great.
Thank you.
It was great.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, I have an offering to make
Oh.
that we sent. There's a new club.
I really like peanut butter. And I have to share that information with Kayla. So, wow. Thank you. I honestly just ran out too. That's really good. I was wondering what you were holding. I was like, what?
I was holding ice also.
Oh, okay.
But anyone can be in the club. You just pay a fee of a jar of peanut butter.
And then hand delivered. Yeah. I will take it. Yeah. Wow. It's like a fancy kind too. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Higher tier.
Next to where I grew up.
Oh.
In New York, yeah.
Oh wow. It's special peanut butter. I'm dead, Kayla. Oh, thank you.
The resident has always played a role, very important role here, and the community is here to support the resident. And I feel like you're here to make changes and embrace the community. And
Yeah.
it seems like you're serving your community too. And our community with what you're talking about, making, and I just think it's great that you're doing it in such a lovely way.
Thank you.
Very excited to see your show.
Yeah.
Me too. See how it goes. Yeah. It'll be good, I think. Yeah.
We always just have this spinning.
I know, I'm yeah. Just hypnotize everyone. Yeah.
No, it's very powerful, emotional work, but really relatable. I could say a lot, but I can't put it all into words.
That's totally fine. Yeah. Yeah.